Wait, did somebody say something about backpacking gear? Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're enjoying the content so far, go ahead and like and subscribe down below. I'm not sure how everyone else feels about fall, but I absolutely love this season. The temperatures are starting to get colder, the leaves are changing color, and best of all, there's no bugs. It's a great opportunity to get out, hike, backpack, camp, and just go and see nature at its finest. In today's video, I wanted to go through some gear upgrades that I've made throughout the past couple of years. When I first started backpacking, the biggest determining factor if I bought a piece of gear or not really came down to price. I wasn't sure if I was going to be backpacking for a very long time or if this would be something I'd be doing year after year. So when I bought a piece of gear, I really didn't want to spend a ton of money on something if I wasn't sure if I'd really enjoy backpacking. So fast forward about 3 years now, and after carrying 40 plus pounds on a couple backpacking trips, I've really tried to focus on looking at gear that's really lightweight, durable, and just overall better quality. So in today's video, I wanted to go through a couple gear items that I've upgraded recently and let you know what I think. So let's get started. Alright, so for the first gear upgrade that I'm going to go through, and probably one of the more significant ones, is sleeping pads. So I'll start off here with the Klymit Static V2. And this is actually the first sleeping pad that I picked up, and I also snagged one up for my wife as well. When we first purchased these pads about 3 years ago now, I believe they were about $50 or $60 on Amazon. So in terms of price, you're definitely getting a low price budget sleeping pad. In terms of specs, this one comes in at 16.3 ounces. It's about 2.5 inches thick, and it's made of a 30D nylon fabric. It also has a 1.3 R value. If you're unsure what R value stands for, this number indicates the insulating capabilities of the sleeping pad. The higher the number, the higher the insulation capability that the sleeping pad can provide. So my overall experience with this sleeping pad has been pretty good, especially considering the price. In terms of durability, we still haven't used both of these sleeping pads, and we've had them for about 3 years now. My wife's sleeping pad does leak a little bit throughout the night, but it's not enough to warrant us needing to refill it or anything like that. So in terms of durability, it's pretty good. In terms of size, this thing is absolutely tiny. I mean, this thing's about the size of my hand. So if you are somebody that is looking to squeeze every inch out of your backpack, you're running out of room, it's definitely something to consider if you're looking at sleeping pads. This thing is pretty small and compact. In terms of inflation, it says it takes about 10 or 15 breaths. And in my experience, that's probably true. This thing really can get inflated quick. I would say within a minute you can get this inflated. The valve is just a screw valve. You just loosen it up to breathe into it, tighten it back up once you're done. So it's just overall pretty easy to use, and it's not much effort, and it's quick to get this thing inflated. Now, a couple issues I do have with this. As a side sleeper, I have noticed that my hips and shoulders definitely dig in after a couple hours of laying on this. So it's not uncommon for me to be tossing and turning in the middle of the night when I'm using this sleeping pad. But probably the most significant issue I have with it is the R value. A 1.3 R value is pretty low, and I would not recommend using this on any winter or cold weather backpacking trips. I've had the experience to use this on a couple winter backpacking trips, and I absolutely froze my butt off. So for that reason, I actually flipped over to the Thermarest NeoAir Xlite, and this thing has been an absolute game changer. Now right off the bat, I'm sure you can tell that the size is completely different on these sleeping pads. The Klymit is much smaller, but in terms of weight, they're about the same weight. This one also comes in at about 16 ounces. It's also made of a 30D nylon fabric. It's about 2.5 inches thick, but the most significant difference is this has an R value of 4.3. So this is a great 3-season sleeping pad. I've even used this in the wintertime, and it's done a great job of keeping me nice and warm in those cold temperatures. Overall, the quality of the sleeping pad is just great. I don't have any issues with my hips or shoulders digging in, and I get a really comfortable sleep using this pad. Another really nice feature that this has is it comes with a pump sack. So if you've just got done, you know, with a long day hike and you're just completely winded, you don't have to worry about breathing in all that air to get this thing inflated. You got that nice pump sack to use and you don't have to worry about it. Another nice thing and a pro tip, that pump sack also can be used as a pack liner. I believe it's about 40 liters, so it's just another nice feature that the pump sack can provide. So a couple issues I do have with this is price. This one did come in at, I believe, $130. So in terms of price, you're looking at about double the price compared to the Klymit. Another issue with this, and I read all about this in the reviews when I was looking for sleeping pads, is this thing is noisy. Whatever they made this sleeping pad out of, it just makes a lot of noise when you're shuffling around at night. So if you are a light sleeper, that's definitely something to consider if you're looking at sleeping pads. So overall, when it comes to my experience with this pad, it's just been rock solid. I've been extremely pleased with it, and you can tell the build quality on this is just great. This is going to be going with me on pretty much every backpacking trip in the future that I plan on going on. So that pretty much wraps it up for sleeping pads. Let's move on to the second gear upgrade. Alright, so on to the next gear upgrade that I'm going to go through today, and that is cook systems. So we'll start here with the Optimus Crux kit. Now you can part this out individually by the pot and lid separate from the stove, but when I bought this, I bought the kit and the whole system together. I bought this about 3 years ago from backcountry.com, and I believe it was about $70. In total, this comes in at 14.3 ounces, and with it you get the pot lid, you get the stove itself with a nice carrying bag to prevent it from scratching up the inside of your pot. You can also fit a lighter or a box of matches in here pretty easily. You have the pot itself and a bag to fit the entire system in as a whole. So some really nice features I do like about this system. The pot is nice and large. You're able to fit, I believe, 800 milliliters in this is the maximum measurement that it does have on it. And speaking of that, it does have the measurements engraved here on the side, so if you do need to measure out a specific amount of water, you do have those available to you. Now another nice thing, the handles here are covered in a rubber or silicone coating, so when the water does start boiling and this has been under or over that flame for a while, you don't have to worry about burning your hands. The pot lid itself also has a foldable handle, and it has the silicone lid on there as well. Another nice feature about the pot is it has a spout here on the side, so when you are pouring your water into that mountain house or backpacker's pantry meal, you don't have to worry about water spilling over on the side. And last but not least, the pot, the bottom here, has a nice wind protector, so if you are boiling water in extremely windy conditions, it does a good job of keeping that flame from going out. So overall, my experience with this system has been pretty good. I really feel like this shines when you plan on cooking for yourself and somebody else. The fact that this is able to boil up to 800 milliliters of water is really nice. I took this system with me when my wife and I went to Wyoming, and it did a great job providing adequate water for both of us and our mountain house meals. I believe I only had to boil water once when we planned on eating, so that was a really nice feature. Another nice feature is the lid you can use as another device to actually drink out of. So when I'm making coffee for multiple people, it's nice that I can boil my water, get my coffee made in here, and then I can literally just pour it right in here, and I don't have to carry another cup or device with me to drink out of. So some of the issues I do have with this system, the stove itself, the legs are difficult to extend sometimes. One of the legs, especially on my system, is really tough to unfold all the way. I really have to push it down hard. And another thing, when the system is actually extended, the pot sitting on there when it has a couple cups of water in it, I really feel like there's a stability issue. You can see it sitting on the canister. It kind of wiggles and moves around a little bit, so on a windy day, I really have to keep an eye on the system to make sure that the pot doesn't slide right off the stove. And last but not least, in terms of the system as a whole, I just feel like this is complete overkill for when I go on either solo backpacking trips or a trip where everybody has their own stove. I've never had a need to boil 800 milliliters of water for myself on trips. And for that reason, I've actually moved over to a new system, and that's the Toaks 550 milliliter pot. And inside here I have the BRS 3000 titanium stove. In total, this system comes in at just 4 ounces. So it's over 3 times as light as the Optimus Crux system that I just showed you a minute ago, which is huge in terms of weight savings. So this also has engravings on the side, which is nice if you do need to measure out a specific amount of water. Again, this pot is extremely lightweight. It does come with a lid here on the top that has 3 ventilation holes, so when the water starts boiling, you'll start seeing steam pop out. Now, one thing I do wish that the pot had was rubber or silicone handles. When this thing does get boiling and it's been sitting over that flame for a while, the handles definitely do heat up, so you do need to be careful when you're pulling this off of your flame. Another nice thing though with the handles here is it does have a little notch or ridge here, so when you are drinking your coffee, it's just a nice spot where you can kind of lean this on your fingers and drink your coffee or water or tea or whatever you may drink out of this. So onto the stove. This thing is pretty awesome. I believe it was only $15 on Amazon, so it's extremely cheap and it's super lightweight. This thing, for the price and the size, can really put off a solid flame as well. So again, it does a great job of boiling water relatively quickly for you. Overall, this system has just been pretty good for me. Again, the weight savings on this has been awesome. It's nice and small, and especially compared to the Optimus system here. You can tell just the pot alone on the Optimus here without the lid is much bigger than the 550 milliliter pot here. Now, one thing I will definitely say that you should consider when you're getting the pot here, if you do part out your own system, is that make sure you look and consider the size of pot you're getting. So this 550 milliliter pot can really only handle about 2 cups of water, which has been fine for most of the Mountain House meals that I tend to bring with me. But I know there are Mountain House and Backpackers Pantry meals out there that require over 2 cups of water to cook. So make sure you do take that into consideration. If you are somebody that brings a bigger meal, you may want to consider getting like a 650 milliliter or even 750 milliliter pot. So that pretty much wraps it up for the cook systems. Let's move on to the last and final gear upgrade that I'm going to go through in today's video. Oh, side note, forgot to mention, the Toaks pot also comes with a nice bright orange carrying case, and this thing is super lightweight, cinches up nice and tight, and you're good to go. Alright, so for the final gear upgrade that I'm going to go through today, and that's headlamps. So we'll start here with this Princeton Tech headlamp. Now, this is actually the first piece of backpacking gear I purchased when I started getting into backpacking. I believe I got this at Cabela's about 4 years ago, and I believe it was about $20 at the time. So in terms of specs, this one comes in at 2.7 ounces. It's capable of producing an output of 70 lumens, and it has an adjustable elastic headband here with a single mount point, so you're able to adjust this to fit whatever size you need. You are able to adjust the light itself by pushing up or down, and in order to turn it on, there is a single button on the top. If you press it in once, you'll turn it on and it's on the highest setting. After waiting a couple seconds, it'll simply turn off when you press that button. It does have 3 different dim settings, going from highest to lowest, and it also has a strobe light. Now, my overall experience with this headlamp, I don't have a ton to say about it. I guess it's performed as expected. The output on here, I definitely wish it was higher than 70 lumens. For what I've needed it to do, it's just not enough light when I'm out in the backcountry. There's many times where I'm hanging a bear bag from a tree limb and I need to look way up in a tree, and this thing just does not produce enough light to really get a good view of what I'm looking at. Shifting the headlamp itself up and down here, it does feel like it gets stuck a lot, so it's not very easy to adjust this. And getting the batteries in and out of this thing is a pain in the butt. There's a clip here that you actually have to push in and slide out at the same time, and it sticks pretty hard, so it definitely requires a little bit of force to get the batteries in and out. Probably the most significant issue I have with this headlamp is that it doesn't have that red light. I really missed that feature sitting around, the campfire with my friends and stuff. I hate having my headlamp on me on this normal setting. Completely forget about it, and I shine my headlamp right in somebody's eyes, and they're pretty much blind for about 30 seconds to a minute. So I really do miss that feature. So for those reasons, I actually switched last year to this black diamond spot headlamp, and I've just been really pleased overall with the performance of this headlamp. In terms of specs, this one comes in at 3 ounces, and it's capable of producing up to 300 lumens worth of light output. The elastic band here is nice and bright. It's got an orange color to it, so it's really easy to find in my pack. It's got a slider here, so you can obviously adjust this for whatever size you need. A really nice feature about the headband is it actually has reflective letters on here, so if I am walking out and about in the backcountry at night, somebody can simply shine their light over my way and they should be able to see me. Another nice feature is the adjustment capability on here, moving the headlamp up and down. It's just super easy. It's mounted here on the bottom, so you just have to pull it down very simply, and it's just easy to adjust this as needed. What is really nice about this headlamp is the touch capability on here. So when you do turn on the headlamp, there is a spot here on the side that if you touch it, you can crank the power up or down as needed, and it can do the same for the red light as well. So again, it's really easy. You don't have to fuddle around with it too much. All you have to do is tap it right on the side, and you can crank that power up if you need to see better. Overall, again, I've been extremely pleased with this headlamp. The light output is just so much higher than the other headlamp that I went over earlier. It has that red light capability, and it's just really easy to use. It has a battery feature on here that actually shows you when the battery is starting to decline. I believe it goes orange when it's around 40% battery life, and it'll go down to red when it's at 10% battery life. Again, my experience with this headlamp has just been great overall. I really wish I would have snagged this one earlier and done my research on headlamps when I first bought one. So that pretty much wraps it up for the gear upgrade video. Now, because I do have a borderline obsession with collecting and buying backpacking gear, there's a bunch of other gear upgrades that I've made recently that I do want to go through in separate episodes. So definitely look for those coming soon. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you are enjoying the content, go ahead and like and subscribe down below. And until next time, I'll check back in later.